Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Diary of a Psychic Medium with me, Amber Amrine. Today we've got my soul brother back. Yay! We do a episode just talking about ET stuff, implants, abductions, and we tune into some really crazy stuff. This one wore me out. This was very interesting. So enjoy. Here you go. All right, so if you've been here for a while, if you haven't been here for a while, rather, Rashad is my soul brother. Kind of like a twin flame, but it's not romantic, and there are 3 parts to our soul. Me, Rashad, and Peepo, who has also been on this podcast. So we come from the same soul. We are very much the same person. I kind of go deeper into it in the relationships and spirituality part 2 episode from last year, if you want to go in. Rashad has been on this podcast before. He was on earlier this year, I think in like February it's published or something like that. So if you want to go check it out, go for it. But yeah, you know him, you love him. Here's my soul brother. Alrighty. Are you the first person I had on here? I think you are. And you're my first repeat.
I'm the first, and I'm the first repeat.
Yeah.
Man, I feel special. But do you remember how long ago that was?
It feels like it was a long time ago, but I don't think it was. Maybe a few months ago. No, longer than that. I don't know.
You think it was before March?
I don't know. Probably.
Well, I am
Probably.
completely honored to be back on your podcast. Yeah, it's I don't know. I just feel honored to always be on somebody's podcast. Even though I've only done 2, and both of you guys are my friends. So I don't, that's the only reference I have, but it's cool. I enjoy it.
We filmed in January, so it's been a while.
January.
Yeah.
So 9 months. That means we've had a pregnancy of information for 9 months, and now it's time to give birth to something new today. All right.
Alrighty.
Did that come out wrong? I'm sorry.
Kind of. That was a little weird.
Yeah. Okay. Now you got to cut that out. Okay. I had no. The only intention of that was for a new. You know what I'm saying? Like the gestational stage of information. I tried to tie the 2 together, and it totally didn't work. All right, go. You got to edit that. That's weird.
Yeah, definitely leaving it in.
Why did you tell me that? Go.
It's okay. All right. So let's first give birth to your implant situations. You have implants. I think we talked about it before, but there have been more coming up. What do they feel like? What do they look like? What is your history with implants?
Okay, so we're doing this. I know you probably have like 1,000 new listeners by now, since it's been since like January. So we need to probably like do a rehash or something.
Sure.
I learned that I did have implants from you and another friend of mine who is actually, no, it's been a few people that have told me that I have implants. What are they? Where are they? Well, my first ones I learned about are in my ears. And I was like, why the hell are there implants in somebody's ears? Right. But they act as a certain kind of technology for being able to listen to extraterrestrials. And when I first learned about them, we learned that they are these little kind of antenna crystal things that stick up and out of my ears like an elf or you know what I think about? I think about the guy Spock from
yeah.
Like kind of like pointy. I kind of think of them like that, but I don't know. So they act more as antennas for receiving information. Have I heard stuff from them? Yes. Have they done weird things over the past few years? Yes. And we can talk about that more as we go, but it's such a long, big conversation. Those have been in since I was 5 years old. Um, only recently activated though, I guess, in the last few years. But years ago, I was always having problems with my ears, a whole bunch of issues that just didn't make sense because I wasn't really losing my hearing, but I was having weird sensations. And thanks to people like yourself, Amber, was able to explain to me that these implants needed a an oil change, right?
Mhm.
They needed a they needed to be redone because they were more of an old model. Um, so we got that taken care of, and I got a firmware update on them for the tech people out there, and we haven't had too many issues since then. After that, I've had implants under my skin and my arm. That's the first one I noticed was under my arm on my forearm, and trying to figure out what that was interesting. And I always do kind of like this verification process of, because I know a few different people who can talk to ET, they're mediums, they blah blah blah. Back then I would always do a few different checks. Now I only check with you, Amber, because you're all
Oh.
I need. Right. Um, but everybody always told me the same story. I never told them what anybody else said. So, um, yeah, the implant in my forearm. May or may not be able to see it. Let me see. It's actually
I think I can kind of see
it's
it.
two. This was kind of more of an entry point, and then this was. I'm screwing this all up, but it's like right there. It's a lump.
Yeah.
So that lump was put there by, I believe it was Arcturians,
Yeah.
and Arcturians have many different races of Arcturians, like we have many different races of humans, all with different agendas, right? Um, and come to find out that, well, it was interesting because you told me a few years ago that you was like, well, you have many more of these, but I didn't realize that I did. I just was only feeling the one in my arm, and you were basically explaining to me that the rest of them are going to start coming up as these implants from the Arcturians are no longer needed. My body is going to
Oh,
start.
that's right.
Yep, my body will start to kind of reject them or just push them out. And I I'm not gonna say I didn't believe you, but I was just like, whatever. And over time, I start feeling all these other little ones coming up. And I remember I hit you like a few weeks ago, like, yo, they are just coming up everywhere. And it's like, well, are all of these implants, or are some of them, you can get like little boils on your body and just kind of little things,
Yeah.
but just so many of them feel all the same. And I don't understand why there would be so many of them. Maybe you can help me with that. So that's kind of my implant journey right now. Ears and all over my body.
How many do you have, or how many have come up?
Okay, let's see. I have felt at least one, two, three, four, five, six. I would say close to 10.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All on like arms and legs, or just everywhere?
Um, Arms, legs, like the back of like the back inner part of my thigh, like
Mm.
kind of close up to the groin area. Like under the armpit.
Mm.
Um, yeah, like just a lot of hidden places. The one on my forearm was the one that was the interesting one because that one is not hidden. Like you can
Hmm.
see it, you can feel it, but all the other ones are kind of in hidden places.
Okay, so what's interesting, I believe when we were first tuning into the one in your arm, I was seeing you strapped in, like strapped up
Yes,
against the wall. There's a bunch of like tubes and stuff, almost like an
exactly.
IV or something. And when you were talking about the other ones, particularly the one in your armpit, I'm almost seeing this like blue, that thin, long kind of rope that like is used to wrap around stuff. So what it's called? Flat rope? Oh, I guess it's just flat rope. This kind of.
Yes, uh-huh.
So I'm
Yeah.
seeing that, but it's almost like wrapped. I'm seeing an X wrapped around your body, and I'm seeing you attached to the wall. And that's something that I'd always see with them, where it's almost like this thing attached to the wall. What's interesting is with the one in your arm, it almost feels like it feels almost like stainless steel or some sort of material that's typically used for in like hospitals. That's where like bacteria, like it's easier to clean, it's more uh
Mm.
clean, you know.
Hmm.
It almost feels like there's a lot of fluid flushing out of your body. I think they put in some weird stuff even into the body where they could almost like track liquids by putting in this weird like glowing
Mm.
thing, and then they can just remove it from the body and it flushes out. So there's a lot of like inserting and excreting of liquids.
That's interesting when you said the glowing, because for some reason I have that image in my mind of some kind of glowing liquid. I don't know where it came
Yeah.
from. So what you're saying is basically all these things that I feel under my skin, a lot of them are entry points for a tube. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, some of them. They have different uses. So the one in your arm is one most often used. The one in your armpit is somehow connected to this thing that kind of held you against the wall. I'm not sure why. I feel like rope is an interesting visual because that almost feels like for their technology, why would they need a rope? You know,
Right. Right.
there's something weird about that. So I don't know if, I mean, obviously when they're taking you, it's in a ship. So I don't know if it's just that's how they like keep everything contained in the body or prevent clothing from moving around. I'm not really sure, but that's an interesting detail.
Mm.
And I'm specifically seeing it like tightening, like it feels really tight where you can't move.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, I'm not sure how that would relate to the one in your armpit, but it's somehow connected to this machine. I don't know if it like keeps your chest inflated. So if there's a big pressure change, your chest doesn't collapse into itself or something,
Mm.
you know? I'm not sure. Um, for the other ones, some stuff feels old where as you've grown, like naturally just your body just gets into different kinds of phases, or certain
Yeah.
areas may be stronger than other ones or something. So they've moved. Some feel like failed attempts at doing
Mm.
something. It's almost like if a nurse tries to put in an IV and misses, or like goes through the thing or something, like it feels like
Yeah.
uh mistakes or just not efficient ones. For
Yeah.
some things too, it feels like because our tissue is really delicate and they worked with you so often. If
Hmm.
they are putting too much foreign stuff in one specific area, it could start to affect the tissue badly. So then they'll look
Hmm.
for new entry points, like too much trauma in one area, which
Right.
is also interesting. It's interesting how each different collective works, because I feel like with the mantis, they could just like recreate it or something. So there is no trauma and it's like even better
Yeah.
than it was before. It's weird that with these guys,
Yeah.
it's like something about it feels a little bit old fashioned.
Mm. Now I'm looking at it from, your listener's point of view, and kind of coming to this podcast like, well, he has all these implants. Why? Why would somebody, because essentially what we're saying is I've been poked and prodded my entire life,
Yeah.
right? So, and did we figure out why? Well, yes, we figured out why. A lot of the answers, some of them are still kind of pending, right? Um, but essentially, we've had two different collectives now. So the ear implants, right, were from the mantis beings, and all these other ones have stemmed from a lifetime of poking and prodding from the Arcturians. The Arcturian ones, though, is interesting. That one kind of came out of not came out of the blue, but remember one day I was just like, there's something in my arm. What is this? And, to finally see something from it, and it's something that's been happening all my life. Well, I mean, I guess I can kind of say that with the same with the ears, right? Something has started happening and I started complaining about an issue with them. And that's how I found out something was really going on. So it was just interesting that after all this time, one of these implants would just kind of come up so strongly on my arm for me to say, hey, what is this? Kind of look into this. All right, I saw your eyes go left. I know that means something happened. All right, you go.
So I think what came to me, and when we were tuning into the Arcturian before, trying to figure out what exactly they were doing, it
Yeah.
felt like they were doing something. It was something secretive. They weren't being
Right, right,
upfront about it. They were being
right.
kind of sneaky, and something was weird. And what came to me right now is part of the reason that the technology wasn't so good is because it wasn't an approved mission, so to speak. Like, they were just
Mhm.
kind of following their own curiosities, doing almost like this underground thing. So it was just making do with the equipment they could get, or
Mm,
it feels a little
mm,
bit like sloppy, like black market weird stuff.
So what it sounds like you're saying, right? If this was something more approved, right, in quotation mark, then they would have had access to or been able to do things a little bit differently from a more of a collective standpoint from Arcturians who are
Yeah.
doing everything the right way, right? But because this was a side hustle, basically, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
For a side hustle, then they kind of used what they had to investigate what
Hmm.
they were trying to investigate. Um,
But I
so
do feel like you did have, I want to say, especially from like 7 to 12, I am seeing more of the higher Arcturians working with you and doing things. There was a contract that I feel like was established around that time that specifically feels like it's revolving around like growth. I think just because kids grow so fast, there's something about growth and like fresh cells and just the process of aging for some reason.
really, well, they didn't make me any taller. I wanted to be taller in my life, and they didn't. They couldn't help me out with that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, that's interesting. So I don't know how far we go in terms of explaining, a lot of the things, the deeper, crazy things that we found out about, some of the things that they've been up to. But it's very interesting going through something like this because the older I get, when you first found out, it's like, why me? Well, what the hell do they want? And then you start going, you actually go through a phase of, oh wow, this is really cool, right? Like, man, I'm connected. you know, I have ET friends and all that. Then you go through phases of kind of like, well, are they really that close to me because I didn't know anything my entire life, right? Then you start feeling like a little bit like a tool, like you've been used. Um, so it's you go through a variety of different emotions. Then you kind of go through, well, you've done all of this to me, right? I want to know who you are. I want to meet you, right? I want to be involved, right? Or else, like, like, are you still doing this? Well, I'm at an age now where I want to know what you're doing. If not, I don't want any more. I don't want you to do this anymore. And then because we have free will, right, we can stop this at any moment. They stop it, and then you say, "Hey, what happened to you guys? I want, I want more experiences, right?" So it has been, I would say, over the last, you know, 8 years, kind of a roller coaster of emotions of what it is that I want, what is it I don't want, and just an ever evolving information download because there's always something more. Like every time we talk, we find out something more.
Yeah.
We find out something more. So trying to always get all of the information at once, it just does not work. It has not worked. It's such a big story and such a big topic that has so many different layers. So anybody else that's going through this, right? It's almost like you'll never get all the information in one sitting. So
There's
yeah.
something interesting coming through, just because my curiosity was in, well, why, and why would like your team allow you to be in a situation like this?
So just before you even go there, I was when you were talking before, this is how I know we're the same basically. I was going to ask you the exact question. I was going to ask you if you could look into when they were doing this, even since it was not really contracted, but it was, but it wasn't. Was anybody there from my team of other ETs or angels that were watching this, right? And just allowing it to happen and saying, well, they probably won't really mess him up too bad, right? Or did they intervene at any time? So sorry, you said that and I was getting ready
Yeah.
to ask you the exact same thing.
A couple things. First, I feel like I feel like it was all meant to happen. You were never actually in danger. It was all, it almost felt like an undercover mission in a way. This group of Arcturian, I feel like, don't fully have access to who exactly you are or what kind of role you play. They don't fully know what they're working with. So it feels like uh, it almost feels like there's classified information that they don't have access to. To them, it's just like, oh, there's this person that is on the roster of people that the collective works with, and there's something interesting here. Let me go there. I feel like even
Mm.
if we are like knocked out or something like that, if our energy is present somewhere, if our consciousness is present somewhere, we're still downloading information. So there is access because you were involved. This is a relationship, this is a two-part exchange. Because you were part of that, your soul carries the information and whatever the environment, like it holds the memory of what happened all of those times they would take you. And I feel like
Mhm.
that was necessary in order to understand what other collectives were doing under the radar.
Oh shoot. Okay. So basically what you just said was that experience was necessary to document to be able to be seen by others to pull that documented information to say this is going on.
Exactly. This is going on. This is what they're doing. This is their intention. This is how they're going about it. This is the information they have access to. This is how they're accessing it. It's like a full download of everything that's going on. And from the physical end of it, I think having this exchange for you as a human being that lives in the physical world, having all of these physical confirmations come up in your body is also very satisfying to kind of reinforce everything happening.
Mm. So who put in place that kind of an agreement that this is what happened to be documented? Like what kind of process was that?
I feel like that was your choice. What I have noticed with your like commander self, so we come from the same soul, and there's one more,
When you say
Peepo,
we, what do you
you
mean?
and I.
Right.
You,
Okay.
me, and Peepo came into the came or from one soul as three individuals. We all came to start reincarnating into Earth with a specific mission to help raise the collective frequency or just do the good stuff that needs to happen here. And those versions of us that had made the decision to reincarnate to the planet were commanders of a specific like ET mission. So though we are still in the process of reincarnating here, we have access to those commander selves. And I think when we sleep, usually is when sometimes like our soul all kind of comes together, our consciousness goes back into our commander selves in their meetings and whatever. So we're still very much connected to those versions of us. They're still very active. We work with them, we connect to them, all that stuff. So one thing I've noticed about your commander self is he has ideas. It's like with your allergies or something. He's a scientist. There's scientist vibes, and he created some sort of idea and just wants to like try it on your body, or you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I feel like that, like your soul just naturally just wants to like be on the ground doing the thing.
The groundwork, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where my groundwork, I guess, technology passion comes from, because you basically explained what I love to do in life. I like to be like, I don't know, for instance, if there was some sort of technical thing that needs to happen at a location, right? You have some people who just like to know about it, like to talk about it. They like to do the remote work for it. No, I am a person who I would like to be like, okay, I give an example. Somewhere in Alaska, right? Or the South Pole where it's the coldest and you got a satellite there, right? Satellite goes down, right? Somebody got to go there and fix it. Those are the kind of things that I enjoy, like literally going somewhere, experiencing the issue, fixing it there. And but that analogy can be used in many different areas of what I do technically. So I mean that completely makes sense. What is the difference between, because when you were explaining it, I was trying to figure out, like when you said when our souls all came in,
Uh-huh.
right? But then you talked about like, well, our commander selves. So you have the
Mm-hmm.
oversoul, and then you have our commander selves who kind of know about ourselves here on Earth.
Right.
So are our commander selves physical, like completely physical, like we are? I know we know that they're kind of on ships doing things galactically, but are they completely physical like we are, or are they
No.
okay? They are like just an oversoul that can morph into different things.
It
You think?
feels like a consciousness that is connected to almost like I guess going back to the Star Trek reference, the guy that like worked the ship, he was not real. He was like a hologram. This guy,
Oh yeah. See, I don't know what series that is. I don't know.
Star Trek Voyager.
I never watched Voyager. I never saw that one.
Oh, that's the only one
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
watched. I really liked it. Okay. He is an artificial intelligence manifesting as a holographic projection,
Oh, okay,
designed to
gotcha,
act as a short-term supplement to the medical staff of the starship. Okay. So
gotcha.
it kind of feels like that in a way, where I'm seeing energy bodies that are connected to a specific consciousness. It's almost like if you were to call in your soul and literally
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation with your soul in front of you. They're
Mm-hmm.
beyond the physical, they're beyond this dimension. Time isn't a thing, you know, it's just like a
Mm-hmm.
embodiment of a specific type of consciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
so our commander selves feel like that. What is interesting about them though, and I mean this is typical with ETs, because I mean we ETs aren't like we are, you know. There's
Yeah.
something about them that feels very magnetic, where it's almost like if I imagine standing in front of my commander self, there's something about her energy that almost feels like I'm putting my fingers into like like this like crazy
Mm.
electric storm or something like that.
Mm.
So there is a physical quality there,
Yeah.
but they
Well,
themselves are not physical.
well, and I know you sort of talked about a little bit about that in your last podcast when you kind of were discussing the differences between, you know, sensing a spirit and sensing an ET. You know, you kind of have that magnetic field, and then you the specific,
Yeah.
because I know when you were talking about that, I knew exactly what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
it's a very specific.
It's
It's so
it's a
weird.
very specific, different feeling, like when you can sense it. And I'm not I'm not psychic and like Amber guy, so I'm not right. I'm not Amber, but
Yes, you are.
I'm I am right? Very empathic, and I do sense and know a lot of things that happen around me. So when I can sense spirit, it is more of this like that, that tingly goosebump kind of feeling, that airy kind of, just, it's hard to, light energy
Yeah.
feeling,
Like
right?
warm
It's
and
warm into fuzzies, whatever
yeah.
word you want to use for that, right? The ET has this heavy, like you say, electric feel, right? So that makes me think, well, our commander selves aren't completely, because when you think of your soul, right, in the afterlife or whatever, like, right, your higher self, you don't you don't tend to think about it as more ET, right? You think about it as, okay, it's like a branch off of source, right? Which is completely energetic, right? Or it's just completely spirit. So that means that if our commander self, if you're feeling a little bit more of that ET vibe to it, then there is a separation between that
Yeah.
piece of source that's separated, that is our higher than the commander self. Then you have the commander self,
Right.
and then you have kind of us, right? That's
Hmm.
basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's interesting too is it doesn't even feel like a higher self because it still feels like it's its own branch. It's like if you somehow manage to throughout different lifetimes, you'll have a different higher self because
Mm-hmm.
your higher self is like the master of all of the soul bits in one specific incarnation or
Yeah.
whatever happening.
Yeah.
The commander selves have technically not themselves gone through the earth process. So
Mm.
they don't, it doesn't even feel like they have a higher self. They just are.
Okay. And do you think but do they feel connected to the other part of
Yeah.
source that, yeah. Okay.
It's like
So,
there's a deeper connection than we typically have as humans. There's more access to information. It feels like there is some sort of mastery. So they even would feel a lot more in alignment with our higher selves than perhaps us
mm-hmm.
individually, unless that's why it's important for us to really like live as an embodiment of our inner being, to really be able to
Mm-hmm.
navigate through these different aspects of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. It's it can be a little bit hard to visualize if you're thinking very linear.
Yeah.
Because I've tried that and it doesn't work for me. So I have to, I have to think about it and look at it from a multi-dimensional sort of way. Um, so yeah, that's my implant journey. The implants in my ears have been a very interesting thing because they won't test them during the day. Um, it's only been at night, or I would say in the middle of the night when it may wake me up, or it's during kind of that light sleep. And I've had several instances where when I very first time I started to hear them, the testing was they were saying that, I think I said this in the last podcast, when they were saying the ABCs,
Oh yeah.
and you wake up and you like, why? Who is saying the ABCs and they really think you're going crazy? But it wasn't like in a nice, kindergarten, Miss Caldwell's voice, right? It was very metallic, very robotic, very unhuman like. And that's what made me kind of have the trigger to say something, this is different, right? I don't know what this is. And it kind of more evolved into kind of this call and response kind of thing over time, but there has been, there have been many different instances where I'll hear things, and then I'll reach out to you, and I'm like, I want to hear more. Like, talk to me, and they're like, it doesn't seem to be that big. See, it's not that big a deal to them, right? They're just like, this is nothing, but to someone who has them, I'm like, all right, let's have a conversation, right? Like you put these things in my ears to talk to me. Well, let's talk. And they don't want to talk to me. So I get, this is what you can feel I'm getting a little emotional, right? I'm going through one of my emotional moments. Like, you don't want to talk to me? Come on. You put
The
them there.
visual the visual I got is like if somebody's doing some sort of like working the sound system at an elementary school and they just turn
Yeah.
the mic on, so they're doing like, okay, testing 1 2 3, and the little kid's like, oh, do that again, can you sing me a song, and they're just like, yeah, I'm doing my job. Like
Right. Exactly. Well, I want to talk to who's in charge, who's going to actually, use the intercom system later on, right? And that's essentially what this is supposed to be for, right? We are discovering that this is an intercom system for something when,
galactic communication.
right? But when, why, and when is the thing that we've been trying to pull out of them, and they won't give us the information.
I'm not sure if I told you this actually,
Mhm.
but I want to say for the past, maybe 6 months or something like that, I've been hearing a lot of ringing in my ear, and I was worried that because with gigs, it's like if I dance at a club or, or just being around musicians and the drummers, it's really loud. I'm always
Mhm.
mindful to put in earplugs because I have really sensitive ears, but I was getting scared that I was experiencing some like early signs of hearing loss or something, but it's like I don't have a history of being in loud areas because I don't like loud areas. This is very short. This is
Yeah,
very like fairly new, like in the last year or so. And I'm
yeah,
always have earplugs in where I can't hear anything because I don't want to hear anything.
yeah.
And so I started noticing, I was like trying to tune into it and being like, what's going on? And then I realized that the only time I ever hear the ringing is at night when I'm home,
Mm-hmm.
either about to
Mm-hmm.
go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
or I'm sitting in this chair and starting to want. Actually, I don't even know. Yeah, I think it happens when I sit in this chair, but it's most often anytime I'm laying down about to go to sleep. And there
Um,
are like there's like a higher pitched ring and there's a lower pitched one. And I started, when they first started coming in, it's like, okay, well, I know energy can come through as ringing. That happens sometimes. So I would try to tune in, but I would literally not feel any energy. That's what started making me panic that, like, oh no, I'm even talking about this. I feel this weird sensation in my ear. Then I started panicking. I was like, oh no, I think it might be hearing loss, but it's like, no, you don't just have hearing loss specifically in the evenings about to go to sleep.
so you hear me laugh when you said you hear like the two different ones, and I have the exact same situation happening that's been there for a long time. I have two different frequencies. I want because I'm in the frequencies and I do sound, as you can see, and stuff like that. I don't know what those frequencies are. I should just figure it out. But there's two different pitches, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mine, if I focus in on it, I can hear it all day, but it does get that much worse at night when I lay down.
Mm.
Um, I have always equated mine to hear loss, right? But you so kindly, after many uh frustration moments of myself getting, am I really losing my hearing, or this is too loud and too much and I'm a little too young to experience this. We discovered that, remember that mine was more of a mask for the implants. So okay, so and
Oh yeah.
it ties to the implants, right? So the implants, um, I will be hearing whatever craziness I'll be hearing from them, and I was trying to get them to turn them on more often or activate them so that I can do now whatever we're supposed to be using the implants for. But because these ear plants are so sensitive, they needed, and I was supposed to activate them myself. There needed to be something wrong something needed to give the impression that something is wrong with my ears so that I can actually fix it myself to activate the implants in my ears so that we can do what needs to be happening later on. Well, why don't they just act? Remember, we asked the question, well, why don't they just activate them? But we understood from the Manses, they explained that if they were to activate them, then for whatever reason, there would be other ET collectives that probably didn't have my best interest at heart could try to feed me information that
Oh,
was
that's
untrue.
right.
Right.
That's right.
It would be more open season on, because they're detectable for whatever reason. If they're activated by an outside source, if they're activated by me for whatever reason, they're not really detected like that. So obviously, this is a piece of technology in my ears that, if turned on naturally, they're not really detectable. But if turned on by another ET race, then it's like, oh, they've done something. Let's go and talk to them.
Which makes sense. I feel like there's an energetic signature that can be left.
Ah,
It's
there you go.
uh it's almost like debris or something,
Mm-hmm.
that could be like, that's not right. That's not from. And then it's like, oh, who's this person? It brings more attention than necessary. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if you do it yourself, it can almost look like a enlightenment kind of thing where it's like, oh, that person's just tuned in. It's like if you think about being wrapped with like a plastic bag, them coming and pulling the bag can almost create stretch marks on it. Whereas if you inflate the bag from the inside, it just looks like something's happened that has expanded you. But I
Mm.
also feel like there are necessary, it's almost like by you activating them, you already, in a sense, understand how they work. You have a closer
Mm-hmm.
relationship with them, your hands are on them, you've built them almost. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So I've been at this for a while now, trying to activate them and, you know, not even sense them, but just try to get more of an understanding on them. And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't feel like I'm having any luck,
Yeah.
right? What I guess the thing I would want to know is, how would I know when I'm close to knowing that they're working? Because obviously they've tested them and they work,
Yeah.
right? So obviously that doesn't really leave a signature. So like, from your perspective, can you see that they're on and they're transmitting?
Yeah. You just have to be able to you just have to be able to translate what's coming in or almost like tune it to the right frequency. I do feel like that is not something, well, I'm getting, there's a slight hint of something doesn't feel totally truthful, and it was
Uh-oh.
coming from this place of, I think they just, by them saying like, oh, they can't, their hands are tied, it like makes you feel like you have to, because I think if they just do it and like, whatever, there are like little things, tools, realizations, whatever, on the path that you would not get. Could they just
Yeah.
download that information into you? Yes. But it feels like because we are like organic matter, there's some sort of awakening that happens in your cells that feels important. And for some reason, it does feel like there's this youthful, almost like anti aging quality to it. Very interesting. Um,
Hmm.
so I think I feel like the danger of them being detected is not as extreme. Like, could they
Sure.
be? Yes, but it doesn't
Right.
feel as extreme as they had said. I think they just were trying to be like, no, we can't do anything because
Right.
it's a journey that needs to happen. Um, and again, we are ultimately, it's like on this planet, we almost act as like God does in a sense. And
Mm-hmm.
we are in command of ourselves and our body, and by really coming into a state of that without somebody doing that for us, it is a lot deeper of a we feel more connected, we're more present, it's a much more wholesome experience of that.
Mm-hmm.
um I feel like because this is an ET thing, normal human logic isn't going to activate them.
Mm.
It feels like it has to come from a different angle. Um, the only thing coming through is almost like adopting them as if they were part of your body. Rather than feeling like you have something on your ears or something to that you need to connect to, it's almost just
Mm-hmm.
being like, I'm aware that this is my ear. If I were to have the skin extend, then I'm aware that this is now my ear. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like claiming it as your body.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Is there someone waiting on the other end to, or is it just okay?
I feel like once it happens, I think Ekricon will probably be the first one that you hear.
Interesting.
That's his like little. I see him with almost the visual that he sent me is almost this like little walkie-talkie that stays in his pocket, and he just like waits for it to turn on. And I'll be like, "Hey, buddy."
So okay, so that's interesting that you said that. So in you kind of channeling some of this information, right? And this is kind of just dives back into how you work a little bit, right? You when we did you call in Ekricon the Mantis during this, while we're doing this, or did they just show up, or was it all just tied into my energy and they're just aware of everything that happens now?
Typically the usually, not always, but usually the route I go is I tune into the energy of the situation itself and
Mm-hmm.
or the solution to a situation rather, and any
Mm-hmm.
energies that are encompassed in that bubble are what starts sending me things.
Okay, I got you. And so, for people who don't know, Ekricon is a mantis friend that I have made because during my journey, I felt very because we're human, so we tend to want a certain kind of connection to everything, right? And to have an experience, right, of having a being surrounded by ETs and all the time, and even understanding and kind of seeing them physically, right? We tend to want an emotional connection to them because we are emotional beings. A lot of ETs tend to not be emotional. So I was always looking for that emotional tie with one of them, right? Like, do they have names? Well, I mean, they can give you a name, sure. And we made a connection with one of the mantis who was a little bit younger, right, on the mantis scale of things. He was more of like a what's the word for it? Like an intern protege, yeah. And years ago, we know he's kind of come up the ranks now, but that's who Ekricon is. And I enjoyed talking to Ekricon because he was a little bit more grounded. It seemed like he cared more about me, right, and what was going on. He would always be there. So I started requesting if the Mantis were going to come, I want Ekricon there because it just made me feel better that I knew one of their names, and he was looking out for me, and I started to feel a more of a emotional connection to Ekricon, and he actually became more of a liaison for me from the upper Mantis. Right, Mantis, they actually have sort of a chain of command as well, and they kind of upped his ranks a little bit. Maybe he went from
Hmm.
private to sergeant or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's who Ekricon is. And you said that he would probably be on the other end,
Yeah.
most likely. And he has a walkie-talkie in his pocket. That's pretty cool. Um, I had a question. Um, something came to me when you said that you were talking about our commander self, right? And remember last time we talked, I'm not sure if it was last time, but I'm supposed to be working on actually opening a portal within my energy field
Oh, right.
for something to be coming in and communicating with something. And I had a thought of, well, is that maybe possibly supposed to be the commander self I'm supposed to be communicating with?
Oh,
Because
interesting.
right, because remember visually, I have these. I can, if I alter my vision, I can see into. I'm able to see into the ether. That's kind of how I explain it. Um, looking at air, looking at the space in between things, and I've always been, even before I talked to anybody about this 15, 20 years ago, I would always do this thing where I was trying to see through a wall. I could see air move. I could see molecules. As weird as that sounds, that's something that I've been trying to do for a long time, and it's gotten better and better and better. And then in discussing this with you over time, it's like, well, they basically told you I need to be doing this a lot more because I'm supposed to be actually seeing something come through and it opens some kind of portal around me, something I don't know. So I actually need to practice that a lot more. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I do this, what am I going to be seeing? Of course, my human brain takes over. Well, who's going to come through? What am I going to see? Right. And they're like, well, don't worry about that. Just let go. Right. But if I'm going to be communicating with something that way, possibly would it be the commander self that
I feel like bananas would help too. I don't know why that. I don't know what is in bananas.
potassium, right?
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that's gonna. That's the first thing that is like, oh, is it potassium? Does your body like, will potassium help support it? I'm not sure if it's that or something else in the bananas. Because I think technically bananas aren't like the highest thing of potassium. I don't know, but
Okay.
there's something about bananas that I feel like is a helpful thing to ingest, almost like a supplement to help. Um, what will you see? So whenever they don't want me to see something,
Yeah.
typically it's almost like it's black. Like there's
Yeah.
crickets, I can't hear anything, can't see anything.
Yeah.
I've gotten in the habit of, especially with this, when that happens, I'm like, absolutely not. You're giving me something. So
Yeah.
I work around it and I'm like, I'm just going to go to the heart of the situation myself. I'm bypassing whatever you think you can put in front of me. And
Yep.
so in doing that, I'm seeing a portal that's opening into something, but then they're still kind of trying to fuzzy the
Mm-hmm.
image. But what
Mm-hmm.
I can see, ooh, I just figured out how to get past this. I went into whatever it is that it's opening to, the place itself, and I'm looking around so that I'm not looking through the thing. They can't stop me.
So cool.
um, so I'm seeing I'm seeing like a dirt path. It's a light, um, it's like this color, this
Mm-hmm.
light brown color.
Mm-hmm.
It looks kind of jungly, but what's interesting about it is it's almost like it's a dome. And in this dome, it looks like a jungle scene. So what you're actually seeing is not anything. Um it's almost like at Disneyland or where they film movies, like how from the outside it's just a building, but the inside it's like
Yeah.
Africa, or
Uh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I got you.
So this is a dome that looks like a jungle. It allows for certain beings to come in. I'm pushing back now to get a bigger picture. So this dome, I'm seeing that it almost looks like a huge warehouse or something, but I don't know what this is. This might actually be a ship. Um it's dark. I think the beings that operate here don't need light, or they don't. It's dark and
Mm.
everything is like a dark blue gray color, and I'm just seeing a bunch of like different domes or boxes, and in each thing is like an office, or there are different things there. This feels like
Mm.
some sort of um
staging area.
Kind of, but it's more like how they communicate to different things or different people. It's almost like a communication center.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But each box, it has like a different background for some reason, which is kind of weird.
I can envision what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm feeling this like flat round shape, um, and in this dark blue gray material. Everything's dark. I don't even see any beings. It feels like um it's almost like energy just passes through it. Almost like how a crystal can help you, how it can help raise your frequency. It's like a tool for energy to move. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a medium for energy to move through and go where it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like not an operator. If you call somewhere and there's an operator that's like navigating, oh, you go to here, let me put this call here, you know?
Yeah. So I was thinking at first I was thinking of this room being like, okay, a being or something will come in this room, and then because of this room is tied to my projected consciousness or vision. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
hold on.
saying? And that's how the
They're like, you aren't supposed to be here.
uh-oh,
So I'm
yeah, now
trying,
we into something. That's what I like to hear.
I'm trying to hold it. Trying to hold it. My throat is kind of hurting. My throat feels sore. They're trying to kick me out. Hold on.
No, I'm coming with you. I'm jumping in.
It's wrapped in this light. What is this? Whoa. So I tried to push out of this thing. I saw it wrapped in light, and then I looked up, and now I feel like I'm in a whole other place. It looks like the material is almost like the inside of your mouth, that like smooth kind of moist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it almost, the I forgot what it's called, that little dangly bit at the back of your throat. That's kind of what it like looks like. There are other things kind of hanging, but it feel like I'm in the mouth of something. It's
And
humid. It's colorful. There's a lot of colors and spots and patterns, yellows and blues and greens.
you think this warehouse place is within this new place that you're feeling like? It doesn't feel like a
Ah,
ship or anything.
I
It,
don't know. Okay, this is the only thing coming to mind. This is going to sound really weird. If somebody had to get their like ball chopped off and put a metal one in the place, it's like metal, this metal thing, but encased with this energy around it. I realized in watching this back that I explained this terribly. So, to recap, there's some sort of mouth structure. The dangly bit that's like at the back of your throat is at the top of this mouth structure. It is surrounded by some sort of light, within which is this metal ball that holds the warehouse thing, within which are all the domes and such that they use to communicate with different things.
mm-hmm. Okay. So you basically said that this place seems to be a place where there's an energy transfer through it,
Yeah,
right?
it's a communication center.
It's a communications center. So why would it feel organic like that though? Because when you're talking about it's
Well, my throat started hurting too, which was weird. I feel like this, it feels like it's connected to its communication. So I guess for us, that's in our throat.
yeah,
And for whatever this thing is, it feels like, I don't know what the significance of the throat is, because not all ETs have throats. So I don't know what exactly that is. But there's
right.
something about, but I mean, even for this thing I'm saying, it's almost like if it was hanging from the top of your mouth instead of the back of the throat. But my
Okay, so
throat still feels sore. Yeah. What I'm getting is it feels like whatever is in this room energetically can be accessed in our throats.
Chanting, moaning frequencies.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm
Oh,
not sure.
da, dee, rum, ba.
It feels like I'm just seeing that weird like metal thing, and that it can kind of it can be moved into your thing. There's something about it being able to transfer to different places. Hold on. I'm just going to start going and see where it goes. So it can be transferred to different places. Um, there's something about if you have an intention, if you have a specific intention or need to reach somebody, there's like different booths. It almost reminds me of like Monsters Inc., where there are different doors that open to different people's houses or different places. So each dome or each box within this warehouse can essentially access a different type of person or vibe or place or whatever. Not It's not that each dome is for a specific person, but it's kind of like if you call the US, it has a country code. If you call a different country, it has its own country code. It kind of feels like that in a way.
Right.
I think this thing is used for communication, perhaps across um like
Universes.
beings. Yeah, but it almost feels like with a lot of ETs, they can just kind of figure out a way to communicate because
Right.
they don't rely on words. For
Right.
beings that require throat vibration to make a sound to
Mm-hmm.
ingest, it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like it requires this thing which I think rattles. It's almost like the energy rattles against, I don't know, within this like weird
Oh
thing, which
shit.
then emits some sort of message that goes to the person.
Oh, so that thing, throat thing, is getting weird though. But
Yeah, it is.
that will be on their side and not my side.
Right.
Holy shit.
Because I had gone into the thing because they weren't letting me see it.
Oh,
So this is
so
what they use.
oh, okay. These
I don't
trying
know.
to
This
even,
is really weird. And I don't, it's like, well, where is this thing? The universe is really big. Like,
yeah, you
this is
could.
kind of weird.
Okay, so who was trying to kick you out?
It felt like somebody that was in charge of I don't know, the warehouse or something. They're like these big guys that are almost shaped like, here, let me try to draw it. But I think as I was trying to get out, there's like a weird powder or something that I inhaled or that they may have put in my lungs because my chest kind of burns. I'm not
Oh
worried
no.
about it because I feel like it's going to go. It's just almost like their attempt to track me, but they can't track me because um
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
gonna think that I'm over here. Why did I gave him bangs and like a little hairdo by accident. So he kind of looks like this. He did actually have hair,
Oh,
but I didn't mean to give him bangs. Um so he almost looks like a mushroom, I guess. He cut a mushroom.
um, weird.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't have legs and he just kind of flies. And there were a couple of them, but they all kind of had that weird shape like a starfish or something, I don't know. But
Okay.
the upper body is much wider than the
Yeah.
bottom part. But it's just kind of an energy that they're not physical, they feel very soft, almost like air. And they
Right.
just kind of float through and
Okay. So just to tie all this up, and then we can move on, move on from that. So essentially, this room is connected to, like, connect that to this my vision that I should be seeing,
so
or
something is going to be using this communication center to project some sort of message. Um it's almost like if somebody filmed something and had it broadcasted to like everybody's television or something. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
or I guess like FaceTime. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
FaceTime,
yeah,
but it's so, there's going to be a being in there that is going to be projecting themselves, but it's like a jungly tropical kind of background for some reason, but it's an ET. So something about it is going to feel like look kind of weird, but I feel
yeah.
like it's meant to provide some sort of comfort. I don't think the ET speaks. I'm seeing something with a very pale white blue kind of skin. I don't even think it has a mouth. It is
Mm-hmm.
humanoid. It's got the kind of classic alien shape, but its chin is very pointy. I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
has a mouth. It might have like tiny little nose holes and just big eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it needs, like, this communication center is a means for them to have a conversation with you where you can exchange things, because it's like the vibration of the thing is similar to our vocal cords where it can be translated. It's translated through the vibration.
So that step is needed for them. Okay. And so you're now able to see this being that
Yeah.
sounds can seem like you're in, and are you able to talk to them now? Are they, are you able to communicate with them essentially? Are they showing themselves to you, or something else
Um,
showing you them?
no, I think they're showing themselves to me.
Because this is a first. This is new. Meow, 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 meow. Like, this is new information.
They definitely have a weird smell. Almost like smells like when you know when your nose is about to bleed. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I smell. But it feels very icy. Like I'm still feeling this like burning in my chest. Are they communicating? They're sitting. They have hands, but they don't have fingers.
Oh.
They have like a thumb though.
My first question, if they'll answer you, how do you know me?
Oh yeah, this thing like can't, it doesn't even do telepathy.
Oh,
Like there's I literally, typically if an ET can't communicate through words, or even if they
yeah,
can't speak, like we can even exchange through images or
right,
something like that, or feelings. I can't
right.
with this thing at all. Like it's, I feel like this thing may be very far, from somewhere very far or something like that, because
Have
I
you ever come
can't.
across anything like that?
No, like literally everything I can either get a feeling, an image, a
Yeah.
sensation, something. I think it needs help with something. It feels, there's something about it that feels like uh apprehensive, apprehensive or shy. The feeling that I'm getting is that it has like a favor to ask of you, or there's like something that it feels shy to bring to your attention or to request.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like this is like new territory for it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost like it's like stepping up, like it has to, or there's something, this is a necessary thing for you to work with.
Understood. Okay. There are 7+ billion people on planet Earth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're asking little old me for something, right? And when this energy exchange is supposed to come through a portal, like this seems to be a big process
Yeah,
for something
that is
that you
big.
for something that I have no clue of. Seems
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It definitely feels connected to the mission, and it feels like it's approaching you with some sort of offer. It feels like an offer, like it almost feels like a business deal or something, but it's,
yeah,
this feels like a big step for it, or like it's intimidated. This isn't something that it's used to doing.
yeah,
I'm not getting too much information about that, because it's almost like if it was time for you to know, it would have said so. This would have happened already.
right.
I feel like we've probably expedited it a little bit by me
Yeah.
being nosy, but they
No,
weren't
I mean,
showing stuff for a reason,
no, not you being nosy. It's actually me being nosy. So, right, they can be upset at me. So you were able to. So you were getting that information from them just now, because you said that it was you couldn't really communicate with them, but you were getting feelings about.
They sat in the dome. So if I'm just looking at
Ah,
them, I can't communicate to them. When they're in the dome, it
yeah.
almost like translates the way things can be sensed.
Oh, so is this dome specifically for them or like a
No, I
universal?
think it feel I wouldn't say universal, but I think it's closer to wherever they are.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
there are different types of beings that use it.
yeah.
Like this is a known thing to perhaps communicate to things on the other side of stuff that just have a different, I mean, because the universe is so big, there's so many ways things can communicate and feel and express, and you know what I'm saying.
Ask them, are they in this universe or another one?
They're in this one.
Okay. Okay. So is it, I mean, I know I'm being nosy, right? So I kind of push the envelope. Is it, is this something you guys need now? Or is this something you're going to need a few years from now?
No, it'll be sooner rather than later. There's something about a 4 to 8 month period that keeps coming in.
Yeah.
I just felt this pressure on the ball of my foot, which was interesting. I don't know what that is.
hmm do I need to do anything more on my end, or will you guys trigger this?
No, I feel like it's just keep doing what you're doing in terms of practicing seeing through the space, space between things. Yeah, it feels like a natural thing, but everything's fine. It's just almost like waiting for the go ahead. So they just want to keep that system kind of well oiled.
Oh, you said they're waiting for the go ahead
Yeah,
from who?
I'm not sure. But it feels like a timing thing. It feels like some other being may have scoped these guys out and are
Yeesh.
like, hey, you would be good for this. And they're like, oh, I'm not sure. And then it's like, okay, this is okay, we have, or I'm not sure what it is. It feels like they have a specific purpose. There's obviously things that they're good at. They
Mm-hmm.
feel like masters in a very specific type of thing. And I
Thing.
don't understand what it is because this is just a very different type of
Yeah.
being, but it feels like I keep getting this like soft texture. Um, but I literally like I'm seeing like what look like smooth hills if you were to make like hills out of marble or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, but it's like I don't know what this means. I literally have no
Mm.
idea, and there's this communication barrier where things are still a bit limited. Um, but there's some sort of mastery in whatever they do. Um, and it's kind of like they have felt that it's time that they need to kind of step out into the world more. And some other beings are like, hey, we need you. And, they kind of made an
Uh,
agreement. And,
yeah.
but because they don't typically work with others, they
Yeah.
do, but in their own like little pocket. They're not explorers. They're not going out there, and you know what I'm saying. So this is a little bit
Right.
different for them.
Is
This got so weird.
this just got so weird, and I think I'll be stopping because it for if this makes the podcast right for anyone who is listening, there have been so many different ETs involved in this equation, right, of things. So you remember Meridi?
Hmm.
Right. So we discovered that there is an ET named Meridi on there's a space station in between here and the moon, right? And it's kind of documented if you look it up and stuff like that. Anyway, and Meridi has been in charge of sort of my file, quote unquote, right? And Meridi has been kind of, I don't know, maybe a manager of some of this program and of whatever's supposed to be happening on this planet, and she's kind of managing my file, right? And then once she's done, is going to be she's supposed to be taking it to someone else. But do you see what I'm getting at? There's so many different layers of different, I don't want to call them people, but just ETs in this equation of my life and our life, not just me, right? You, that is so you don't see in the media, and I wouldn't put this in the media, even though this is in the media, like you're in the media. But generally you're here about, well, someone is abducted, right? Okay, you have an implant, right? What is it for, right? And the very surface level things.
Yeah.
We are so beyond surface level things that it's just such an incredible journey to realize that there's so much more than these surface level. There's a UFO in the sky, right? I have an implant. I I woke up and I've been abducted. Like, I remember this, what happened to me, right? Okay, yeah. So right, I can remember those things too. But what is the engine behind all of that? And to know that there is this engine of so many different ETs doing so many different things, which means that you're being watched by so many different groups of ETs. It's just feels so expansive, and you just kind of down here like, well, I'm just little old me. Like, why are these ETs watching me? Right now, understanding that, I guess, our soul commander self is in a different kind of position because it's kind of in charge of this entire program. Whatever
Right.
this entire program is, we have not completely figured it out. Right? We're not at that point yet. So, and all of this, our discussions, we are slowly peeling back these layers of understanding, and the questions never stop. And we get to this point of, all right, we got this little bit of information, and we just kind of run with it.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where, because I'm, like we talked about before, like, I like to be in the experience physically, right? So I am still yearning for these things to come to happen. I don't know, Amber. It's okay. So I brought up Meredy, right? Is she still running a part of this, or is she out the
Hmm.
equation now?
Yeah.
Remember, she's a slug. Like a slug figure.
Yeah. I've spoken about her in previous episodes, or I think
Nice.
I've spoken about her once before.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, she's still involved. If I recall correctly, when we had first connected to her, it was like we had to ask for somebody in charge because we wanted answers on
Yes.
something. So
Yes.
she's not one that has her hands like
Yeah.
invested in this. It's almost like
Yeah.
she's just has the files of a bunch of different whatever. She's like kind of keeping track of, making sure everything's running right.
Okay.
So I think because we haven't been requiring her,
Yeah.
we haven't needed her to speak on topics, her presence hasn't been as prevalent.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it was almost like one of those, like, well, can I speak to your manager kind of situations when,
Right.
when we called her.
Right. But
I
I
will
so
say this process throughout all of these years
yeah.
has really taught me how to jump through loopholes.
It taught you how to finagle, how to
Yeah.
get the things that, hey, listen, this is well, I'm happy to be of service to be able to push you to get to these, because I want to know. Listen, and there's somebody we can talk. There's got to be somebody we can talk to get some of these answers. Typically, I know, kind of when to go far enough. You know what I'm saying? Because I like the situation with these dome beings. I have to. It's going to take me a minute to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
It really is. But then what happens to me is, I was actually going to text you today. I had a dream last night, right? So when things die down with me, what tends to happen is I'll get really excited about things, right? I'll want connection with ETs. They may come one night, then they may not come for 3, 4, 5 months, right? And then it all explodes again. And I'll tend to disassociate myself with all of it.
Mm,
Okay. And I'll just kind of go about my life because I'm just trying to be normal because I'll get really excited about all this stuff and I want to live this stuff, right? Like I want it to be my passion. But
yeah.
then I can't experience it the way I want to physically often most of the time. So I'll disassociate myself with it so that I'm not constantly thinking about it.
Mm,
But then what tends to happen is my dreams start. And when my dreams start, it's like this reminder of you're supposed to stay in this stuff. And my dreams
yeah.
are so prevalent in terms of, I don't want to call it not supernatural, but I feel like things that human beings should be able to do. Like, for instance, I feel like we should be able to fly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we should be able to move objects like a Jedi, right?
Mm,
I've had these dreams since I was a teenager, right? I can just levitate myself up off the ground. Completely natural. I can move an object with my mind, completely natural. So I live in this world in my dreams of things that I should be doing, and then I come back into my in
yeah.
this world, and I can't do any of it. So when I tend to disassociate myself completely from it all, I start the dream start, and
Mm,
it's like man, right? It's like I can't get away from it. So I say all that to say, last night I had this dream. Lately I've had the dream of I can fly. I'll just lift off the ground and go into space. I'm sorry, not space. A few times in space, but I'll go into the clouds. But I
mm,
always have this fear of once I get to a certain height, I have this fear like I don't know what's farther, right? So I kind of get scared and I kind of tend to want to bring myself down. And I think I've spoken to you about a few times, and we kind of talked about, I need to lose that fear of what's out there, right?
right.
So I've been having this dream for many, many years. Last night was the first time that I had this dream where I couldn't come back down because, and I believe after thinking about it today, subconsciously I created something to make myself, I cannot come back down. When I say come back
Mm,
down, like I think I was in a city somewhere and there was somebody who was literally trying to kill me. They had a gun and they were shooting at me, but I was able to get away from them because I could levitate, right?
mm.
But I would levitate. But what happens when I would levitate and go up to the sky? I was always trying to come back down because I was
Oh,
afraid to keep going. So you see what I'm getting at? But when I would
yeah.
come down, this person was shooting at me.
Interesting.
Right. And I would almost feel the sensation of getting shot. So I was like, so I told myself, I am going to go. Like, I have to get out of this planet. Guess what happened? I left the planet. I went into space and I told myself I need to go as fast as I can. And I remember it wasn't a tunnel, but it was just this weird, you can see like stars, but it was so fast. I the next thing I remember, I was completely on a different planet.
Mm,
I I couldn't see like the planet itself, but I knew I was not anywhere where I was, like Earth, this solar system. I don't know where I was. Maybe you're able to look into my conscious and tell me what happened, if this was true or not. But I remember, and because I knew I was somewhere else, and I'm not a very visual person when it comes to these things, but sometimes I can see. Because I knew I had traveled somewhere else, that my first instinct was to think about what are the beings here like, right?
mhm.
Because I'm tired of these so many different ETs. I just like, what are the beings like? So I remember seeing these human beings. They were humanoid, right? Kind of just like we are, but their skin was very different. Their skin was almost like a one of these created characters you would see on TV or a movie, kind of like a very tough skinned being, kind of shiny skin, but it was still like ours. The tan, the hue of the skin was very interesting. It was kind of like a brown, but it could change. It was different hues. Some of the features were pointy, um, but just human-like. But I felt like their civilization was it felt very light. It felt happy.
Mm.
It felt like it could be our civilization. It felt like a normal way of living, but a
Yeah.
little bit different. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And I felt like I was around this. I had put myself around this scientist kind of a person. I was in some kind of, it was either a doctor or a scientist. I think I remember talking to them, but because it was, it just kind of started feeling weird. I think I disconnected myself from it. But I just felt it was very interesting because I finally was able to leave the planet, right, and go somewhere else. And I kind of got what I had been asking for or been trying to do, but I had been afraid to do in my dreams. But I was
That's
forced
cool.
to. It was kind of cool, right? It was kind of a cool story. Yeah, I mean, I know we've been kind of going for a while. This is an hour and a half.
Yeah, that last thing was weird.
I
That like
mean,
burned me out.
that is I I'm glad we have this on tape so I can document it and write it in my notes and
Yeah.
put that in the book that we're going to publish together. Okay, yeah, I said it.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for chatting. This was fun. I'm tired.
Yes,
This is a weird one.
this is great. Thank you for poking and prodding. I know that's a lot. If I could do it myself, I wouldn't do it. I'd still still call
No.
you. So yeah, nah, get some rest, man. Get some grub, and if anything else comes up, I'm telling you that dream I like. Oh, the other part of the dream that I had, and maybe this relates to something. So it was I can't remember which one was first. I think that one was second when I left and went to another planet. Before that, I was with someone. I don't know who it was. And okay, I knew that whoever I was, my eyes were closed. All right. So
Hmm.
whoever it is I was talking to, when I say my eyes were closed, meaning I was sleeping. And this may be a reference to something, but I knew I was sleeping, but I was awake. But how do I explain it? But I couldn't see, but I was there.
Yeah.
And my goal was to open my eyes to wherever I was, but know that my physical eyes were closed because I was sleeping.
Oh,
But I
interesting.
needed to open my eyes in this other wherever I was, and I was able to open my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, Amber, I went, oh, oh my God. I'm getting goosebumps because it's coming back to me. I remember I opened my eyes and I just went, I can see. And I said I can see because I knew my physical eyes were closed. So it was
Mm,
almost like my third eye, right?
yeah.
But
Well,
I
astral
could
projection.
maybe, right? And I'm talking to you with my eyes closed because I was trying to go there. And I remember seeing, but I don't remember the vision. I don't remember what I could see. And I was with someone. When I opened my eyes, I just went, oh, I could see. I was like this, I can see everything. I'm here, I'm here. And I was like, but my other eyes are closed. And I was so excited because I was telling myself I did it. I was like, I did it, I did it. And
Oh,
I was looking around and it was so freaking amazing.
that's cool.
But I can't remember what I saw.
You're gonna have
Oh,
to go back there.
and I don't remember how I did it. So last night, I'm telling you, it was wild because I had that happen, and then I had the other thing that I told you about happen.
That's really cool. Yeah, it sounds like really astral
Sounds
traveling.
like astral. Yeah, but
Yeah. Let me know if anything else comes out of that.
I
All
will.
right, my friend. Well, thanks again.
All
I'm
right,
gonna eat and sleep probably.
all right. Well, heal up, and
Thank
we'll talk
you.
soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
Bye.
bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my friend, for joining on. I'm so honored to have you on again. You have such good questions, and I appreciate our conversations. This is really cool. That definitely excited for more. If you would like to keep following Rashad and his story, you can find him on Instagram at Tushar on Earth, Tushar on Earth. The link will also be pinned in the show notes. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for being on this ride with us. I will see you all very soon. I'm sending you tons of love. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to Diary of a Psychic Medium with me, Amber Amrine. To learn more about me, my work, and such, you can visit channelwithamber.com or follow me on Instagram at channelwithamber. A special thank you to Unicorn Heads for my theme song, A Mystical Experience. See you next time.